Venice waiting for relief from days of what forecasters call exceptional flooding. The rising water crippling the lagoon city, forcing businesses and historic landmarks to close. The city actually under a state of emergency. It is the worst flooding Venice has seen in more than 50 years, causing hundreds of millions of dollars. Scott McLean joins us now from Venice with an update. And last hour we spoke, the tide was on its way in. What's changed in the last hour?
Hey, Michael, so we're about 15 minutes away now from high tide. You can see St. Mark's Square is completely flooded, but there's also a lot of tourists who are getting back to their normal business. A lot of businesses, cafes have opened for the first time because today the high tide, although it looks dramatic, is actually much less, significantly less than what it was earlier in the week. So it'll peak at 105 centimeters above sea level. Earlier in the week, it was 187 centimeters. So this is the door to St. Mark's Basilica. Imagine the amount of water we have now, about a meter. Add 80 centimeters onto that, and you've got a heck of a lot of water. And, you know, it bears reminding of just how ornate this basilica is. It is really one of the treasures, historical treasures of Italy. It is not the kind of thing that you want to see underwater or with water right up to the door. The problem here, Michael, is that they are expecting more water tomorrow. Not what we saw on Tuesday, but close, 160 centimeters. So again, imagine what we have now, add 60 centimeters to it, and you'll see the water somewhere near the top of these platforms. So again, the issue is a lot of the businesses, a lot of the storefronts and things like that, and houses as well, they do have some flood defensing, metal gates that are watertight that they can put in to stop some water, like what we're seeing right now, from causing significant damage. The issue, though, is that when it reaches a certain level, it's either going to jump on top of those gates or it just simply comes up from the ground. It comes through the plumbing. There's just nothing that they can do to really stop it at all. And they've been seeing this phenomenon more and more over the last couple of years. The mayor, who was actually in this square within the last hour, touring around officials from the Italian government, says this is climate change. He's pinning this on climate change. We can't pin one specific event on climate change, but he is correct in saying that, look, sea levels have been rising, which is exacerbating these high tides that we've been seeing here in Venice, Michael.
Yeah, indeed. Can't argue with that. Scott McLean there in Venice. Thanks so much. Popular with the tourists. I'll let you get back to schmoozing there. And Derek Van Dam joins us now. He's saying hi to all the tourists. I mean, entertaining.
Take whatever opportunity you can.
Exactly. Now tell us, what's the outlook?
Well, it's interesting because Scott did a great job of just showcasing how beautiful that city is and how ornate it is as well. It actually has the highest concentration of architectural masterpieces in the world. So we don't want to see a city like this flood, right? I mean, it is incredibly beautiful, but only time will tell before we get a full scope of this disaster that has unfolded across the city this week. Well, there has been another round of flooding. We know that this took place yesterday, and then they're going through their high tide now. So yesterday they reached 154 centimeters, officially above the normal tides. You can see that that is considered an exceptional tidal event, but that was nothing compared, just like Scott said, to what happened on Tuesday, where they had the second highest flooding event ever in the city of Venice, the lagoon city. And you can see the tidal chart. Bear with me here. It fluctuates, of course, with the tidal swings, the daily tidal swings that we have, but you can see a few other high tides coming through. One taking place this morning in Venice, and then there are two more rounds of high tide as we head into the end of the weekend, that being Sunday. And he did a great job of explaining the cause and effect of what's happening. We have a full moon, so that impacts the tidal swings across the planet. You get the long winds across the Mediterranean building into the Adriatic, all thanks to the storm systems that pass across this region. And guess what? Our latest weather map shows another cold front and another low pressure on top of heavy rainfall that will bring another round of flooding to the city, unfortunately, going forward. And it's interesting to note, too, that St. Mark's Basilica has only flooded 6 times in the past millennia, and in the past 4 flooding events have occurred in the past 2 decades.
Yeah, well, I'd call that evidence.
Exactly.
Yeah, Derek, good to see you, my friend. Derek Van Dam with the latest there.
Thanks, Mike.